Good afternoon. My name is Monique Armstrong, and I have the privilege of serving as the second vice president of the Black Alumni Constituent Society and co-chair of today's reunion. I would again like to thank our sponsors, our corporate sponsor, First Merchants Bank, our event sponsor, Demita Williams, and the Office of Institutional Excellence here at Ball State University. This is an exciting opportunity to hear from dynamic women that are alums of Ball State University. Before we hear from these women, I would like for you all to listen close. And if you have questions that you would like presented to the panelists, please drop them in the chat as we're hearing from them. In addition to dropping your questions in the chat, we do have a hashtag. That hashtag is BSU Black Alum, hashtag BSU Black Alum. So throughout the course of the day, submit photographs of you engaging with us. You may also use that hashtag to engage with us on social media. So hashtag BSU Black Alum and submit your questions within the chat. And after we hear from these women, I will open the floor for questions. Now, I'm going to call these women up in no specific order of participation, but it will be my right to my left in which they will engage, finally hearing from our president, Dr. Jeter. We're going to give her a little break to take a few sips of water. She's been talking a lot today. So first, I would like to introduce Dr. Marcia Mcgriff. And Dr. Mcgriff serves as the Associate Vice President for the Office of Inclusive Excellence. And once again, thank you for your sponsorship of us today, Dr. Mcgriff.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. I'm going to keep my mask on. Sorry, I've got this rock and red lipstick on, but I don't know. You might see how it goes. But I will say this: it is truly a pleasure and an honor to be with you today. And I have to say, throughout my tenure at Ball State, which started in 2019, 2020 was I don't know, it was a weird year, just like kind of came and went. It was post-traumatic stress disorder. But in my tenure at Ball State, I have found so much kinship with sisters, women, and have found my bounce, my step, my stride, my sway, my swagger through those incredibly important relationships. And so, as the Associate Vice President for Inclusive Excellence, I have had those relationships like with Monique and so many others at this table to bounce ideas off. One thing about mentors and mentoring is that if you get the right one, the world is your apple. You can be vulnerable, you can be yourself, and so for that I'm grateful. And so as we moved into the Inclusive Excellence Plan and the incredible task of writing that work, it was these types of relationships that kept me sustained, that kept me strengthened and nourished in the most vital and important ways. And so I would not be where I am right now in this position in my life without strong women in leadership. So I'm just incredibly grateful to be here. Thank you again.
Well, I thank you, Dr. Mcgriff. Next, we will hear from Mrs. Mary Dollison, who has been a lifelong mentor of mine. And Mrs. Dollison is a 1964 alum. Did you know that, Mrs. Dollison? You graduated in 64? Yes.
I'm honored to be invited to share with fellow alums. I became an alum in 1964 when I graduated from the Teachers College. At the time, I didn't understand the importance of being an alum. I wasn't aware of the benefits for several years. In 1952, I moved to Muncie from Tangier Hole, Louisiana, with a big family. My mother was a domestic worker and Daddy was a construction worker. Neither of my parents graduated from high school, and they didn't really understand education. They both had a strong work ethic, though they were careful with money. splurging only on big cars. We had a nice house, always because Daddy knew how to build them, but no bookshelves. We didn't waste money on books, magazines, or culture. In 1956, I got a job working for a family who lived across from Burris School on University Avenue, across from the university. That home had bookshelves, lots of them. There were magazines, art pieces, photographs. Working for that family gave me a window to a world I never knew existed. And I wanted to live in that world, a world made possible not by their money, but by their knowledge. Education, I knew that was the key. The job opened my eyes, but it was God who opened my heart. Through a loving group of church members, these people encouraged me to finish high school and even talked about college. I enrolled at Ball State in 1960. By 1987, I had become painfully aware of the toll summer vacations took on my students. My friend Rishana Shabazz and I came up with a makeshift summer reading program to be held in my living room. We rounded up our kids and their friends, and Motivate Our Minds was born in 1987. It was the era of Michael Jackson, Prince, Whitney Houston, boom boxes, big hair, and big dreams. But our dream was education and not entertainment. Rishana and I found ourselves in the elegant office of local banker and community leader Stefan Anderson. There we were, a couple of dreamers with no plans, no money, and no real knowledge of the business world. He became a special mentor to us, motivating our minds in unexpected ways. As I worked with neighborhood kids, both at school and at Motivate Our Minds, I saw firsthand the damage wrought in young lives entangled with circumstances and conditions they inherit through no fault of their own. The chaos at home leads to an even greater need for enrichment activities that can show these children the world I saw through that reading and learning experience. From the beginning, our work has been a cooperative effort merging the entire Muncie community with the Ball State community. I just want you to know that the experience with Motivate Our Minds and Ball State University has been amazing. And the cooperation, the collaboration has been so great. And as a Black alumni of Ball State, we're in a unique position to help our communities realize the importance of education. As Black alumni, we're indebted to those shoulders we stood on to get where we are today. We need to be those shoulders for our current and future Black students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Dollison. I neglected to share that Mrs. Dollison is a 2021 BSU Homecoming Distinguished Alumni Awardee. And because I know her so well, I also neglected to share that she is the co-founder of Motivate Our Minds, the organization that motivated me as a child and gave me the launching pad as a professional executive director. So thank you, Mrs. Dollison. At this point in time, I'd like to introduce a fellow Black Alumni Constituent Society board member and event sponsor, Mrs. Demita Williams. Mrs. Williams is the Chief Nursing Officer and has also been an advocate supporter of the work that we as alumni are doing here. I can't thank you enough in the conversations that we have as well.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm honored to be able to share with you today. I represent the 1980s at Ball State, and I graduated from the School of Nursing, and I think it's really important, the role of mentoring. I didn't have those standout individuals as mentors that went before me. I am the first member of my family that graduated as out of the children. My dad graduated from Purdue, but out of my siblings, I was the first. And that was a tremendous burden actually to carry. And when I got to Ball State in the School of Nursing, many of you know that, a lot of freshmen come in declaring nursing as a major and very few cross the finish line. when you look around in the end. And so that's a tremendous thing to me to carry, that I felt it was important to be a role model and a mentor. And I now mentor young men and women across this country, and spend a great deal of my time doing that. And within the corporation that I work for now, that is a role that I play that is a formal role as a mentor in executive development for young men and women in leadership. After leaving Ball State, I had the privilege of continuing education. As minorities in healthcare in particular, it is important for all of us to continue to pursue education. So I had the privilege to go on to continue that education, to receive 2 master's degrees, and then to complete my doctorate in leadership. And with that also comes a responsibility to bring others along with you. And that's what's so important, because I didn't have those formal mentors. To me, it is important that we continue to share and pull others along. And that is all generations. I believe that as leaders as well, that we look for mentors in every generation. I have millennial mentors in my life now. I look to the young generations to teach me things that I don't know, and utilize that expertise, because there's still things that we have to learn. And so not only is it a responsibility for us to mentor others, but us to continue to learn and be lifelong learners. And so it's just important that you continue to play that role no matter what profession that you have. That is a commitment that you need to continue to do. As well, I just encourage each of us, as our role as Black alumni at Ball State. I live in Texas. A lot of us here, we have people here today from New York, all across this nation, that we can still continue to engage in responsibility to this university and what the work is that continues to go on. So thank you for the opportunity to share.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. We, as Dr. Williams mentioned, we have alum engaging from all over the United States. And one alum is actually joining us virtually, Miss Angela Parks. Hi, Angela. We are so happy that we're so happy to have you all the way from, is it North Carolina?
Yes, Greensboro, North Carolina.
And Angela is our 2021 BSU Homecoming Gold Awardee. And
Thank you.
so gold is graduate of the last decade. So Angela is a 2012 graduate of Ball State University. But I tell you what, she's given us 30 plus years of wisdom in the work that she's been doing. So we'll hear from you now.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to extend my greatest gratitude for this awesome opportunity to the Ball State Reunion Committee on today. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this awesome panel discussion. And as Monique said, I am a graduate of Ball State 2012 class. I graduated with my BSW in social work. I also went on to get 2 masters from Indiana Wesleyan University. I am not a native of Muncie. I'm originally from Gary, Indiana. But just a little background, how I got to where I am today. I definitely did not do it by myself. I had a lot going on growing up as a troubled youth, went through a lot of traumatic events in my home life, moved around a lot, and I ended up in Muncie at the tender age of 14. A lot of people in my life at that time did not really have a lot of hope or think that I was going to make it out, just because of a lot of things that I had experienced at such a young age. But I'm standing here today to tell you that no matter what you endure in your past, that does not have to define your future. You can overcome any obstacle that is put before you if you set your mind to achieve it. With a little hard work, determination, and motivation, you can do anything that you set out to achieve. Also, once I arrived in Muncie, I also was blessed to be mentored under the awesome stewardship of Dr. Miss Mary Dollison. She was the one that gave me my first internship at Motivate Our Minds back when I was actually getting my associate's degree at Ivy Tech. That was the start of an awesome beginning of my dreams of wanting to pour back into others what others had already poured into me. I had worked very strenuously in the community with several mentoring programs such as Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Project Leadership, Motivate Our Minds, For Girls, By Girls, and a host of others. And they all gave me the opportunity to be myself, to be the best version of myself, to give me a launching pad to where I am today. So today I have been blessed, and I have been recently relocated to Greensboro, North Carolina, and I am now the child and family school clinician here in Danville, Virginia, where I service K through 12th graders, providing individual and group therapy sessions in the school through mental health. And then I'm also a certified pre-screener for the state of Virginia in the hospitals here. I also have my own business called Yes, We Can, which stands for You Empower Success. So my heart's goal and mission is to pour back into those around me, because if it wasn't for individuals such as Miss Mary Dawson and several other key people that helped pull me up by my bootstraps where I didn't think I was going to make it, I would not be here today. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Angela. And she's going to stick around as well. So during our question and answer period, we'll also be able to engage with her virtually. Next, I'd like to introduce Miss Ella McNary. And Miss Ella McNary is you know what? I didn't write her class down. We just know that Miss Ella's been around for a little while. And she's also one of our outstanding alumni awardees that will be with us later this evening. But Miss Ella has an interesting story in regards to her experience in the dietetics department here at Ball State. So Miss Ella.
Well, hello all. I am so blessed to be able to speak with you and give you a little information about myself and a little about my life. I'm not from Muncie originally. Originally, I am from Webster, Florida. So if you're ever in Florida, I want you to go to Webster. And it's quite interesting, very small town near Orlando. At the time I was growing up, population was 900. Now the population is about 1,200. But anyway, I attended Florida A&M University, as did my 9 brothers and sisters attend Florida A&M University. But so much for that. My parents were William and Mary Robinson, who are well thought of even today, even though they are deceased. Neither graduated from high school. My mother only completed 4th grade. My father only completed 8th grade. But their desire and their determination and their love of God and love of wisdom and knowledge, they said to themselves when they first got married that whatever number of children we have, they will all graduate from college and live a better life than we have lived. And that's what we complied with their wishes. Of course, sometimes, it may have been a little hard on them, but they were great parents. And Daddy was one of the most brilliant men I have ever known in this world, if he had only had a chance. He was born in 1893. My father was. My mother was born in 1912, 19 years after Dad was. But he married that young woman and had a house full of children. And they took care of their house full of children well. And they were poor living in Florida. We lived through so much racism that it's hard for me sometimes to even talk about it, because for years I was angry. Every time we hit the Georgia-Florida state line leaving Muncie, I was angry when I'd get to that line because of what happened when I was in college in Tallahassee, Florida, at Florida A&M University. One of my sisters and I were arrested in the civil rights movement. We were in church singing, "We shall overcome." Cops from Georgia, cops from Florida rushed into the church, no questions asked. And it was mostly girls in the church, dragged us out forcefully out of the church. Girls getting their legs, holes knocked in their legs with tear gas, marched us through the city of Tallahassee. Everybody's yelling at us, calling us niggers, took us to jail, fingerprinted us, mugshot us, threw us in jail. And the National NAACP came to our defense and paid our bond. That is how we got out of jail that night. And that has been with me for years. But nonetheless, I've sort of overcome it, but maybe not all in all. I remember the day when I stood up at age 17 on the bus going to Tallahassee. And the bus driver told me I had to go to the back of the bus. And one of my brothers was with me. We both were going. And I said, if you give us our money back, we'll get off the bus. But we weren't going to the back. He didn't give us our money back. We didn't go to the back. Finally, after about 45 minutes of sitting there without moving that bus, he took off and went on to Tallahassee. It didn't affect us that much because that was during registration, but it affected most of the other people on the bus, 45 minutes late to work. You know, I think about those things. I think about when I graduated. Are you? Okay. When I graduated from Florida A&M, I had to do a 12-month dietetic internship in order to become a dietitian. So I received a letter. I went to Dayton, Ohio. The day I received the letter, I recall saying to Mom, I'm going to be the only Black in my class. I was scared.
Thank you.
You
Ms.
know,
Ellen.
okay. Okay. If you want to talk to me later, you can.
And if you would like to submit questions, you may do that in the chat. Miss Ella would actually, you know what? She would engage with you personally, and I appreciate hearing your stories. So next we have, you guys, I just love all these women, but Miss Akila Nosakir, and Miss Akila graduated from Ball State in the 80s as well. So you probably were about here at the same time as Miss Demita. Right, yes, yeah. So look, it's a reunion, y'all. So, so Miss Akila serves as the director of Muncie Public Libraries, but she's a celebrity in my eyes, nonetheless.
Thank you, Monique. And these stories have got me all emotional now. I know most of the ladies on the panel, and it's a pleasure and an honor to be here today. I am not from Muncie, but I grew up in Muncie. My family came in 1964, which is ringing a bell here. 1960, what? 1964, yeah. My mother and father were civil rights workers, but they were also common people doing labor work and domestic work in Greenwood, Mississippi. I was born 6 months after the killing of Emmett Till, maybe about a mile from the river. I was born in Money. But we moved to Muncie, Greenwood. And then in 1964, my mother wanted to leave Mississippi because of all of the violence and the murder of Medgar Evers. And so she took her family, we had other family here in Muncie, and moved here to Muncie, Indiana. My dad said he wasn't going anywhere. So he stayed there. And when I came to Muncie, I went to Muncie Community Schools. I went to Trinity United Methodist Church, where my jagged edges were smoothed out by the women of the United Methodist Church. And they taught me how to be a lady and how not to fuss and fight, how to wear shoes, because I love to just, be myself. So Mrs. Vivian Conley and I got to be very, very close. And growing up here in Muncie, I would be the one to bring Mrs. Conley and my big, long Chrysler to the library to get things for Black History Month. And so that's how we kind of got close. And every summer, Reverend J.C. Williams would hire Howard University students to come to Muncie to teach us during the summer work program. And so that kind of formed me. I was always involved in community work. It's part of my blood. It's part of who I am. I left Muncie and I went to Ball State. I graduated from Burris. Miss Conley was putting everybody in Burris at that time. So I went to Burris, graduated in 74, and left Muncie to visit. I ended up studying African American Studies at Western Illinois University. Coming back to Muncie, there was no African American Studies program at Ball State at that time. So all of my stuff went to electives. So from that, I was able to kind of put that into an education degree, and my love now is teaching and reading. I wanted to be a teacher, never got to be a teacher. I fell in love with the books because I worked at libraries from high school all the way through college. Had no idea I was a librarian, but I'm a librarian, administrator now. Thank you.
And Ms. Akila serves as in library administration. You've been a librarian all over the nation. I guess I could say it that way, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So next we have Miss Angelia Stone White. She is the founder and publisher of Hope for Women magazine and a past achievement award winner from the Black Alumni Constituent Society. I think at our last reunion, you received your award in 2018. Yes. And then she also is the author of Yes Sisters. And I think that there are a few Yes Sisters at this table. Absolutely. Would you agree?
I agree.
Yes. So Miss Angelia.
Thank you so much, Monique. And so it's definitely an honor to be here today and to be surrounded by so many amazing Yes Sisters. And I was thinking as everyone were talking and I was listening how I remember when my college education started as my parents just had high school diplomas. And I always remember two things that they always instilled in us. Is when we were this little kids, they would tell us, when you turn 18, you're going to vote, you're going to vote, you're going to vote. And then you also were going to go to college. And so often my older brother and I talk about, and my mom, she says, I had no clue what to do for you kids going to college. So we had to enroll by ourselves, figure out the financial aid, do everything to get into college. And even as far as the SAT was concerned, that was all on us. We had to figure it out. But they had always taught us and told us that we were going to school and you were going to be better than us. And so I was here actually when I was talking about Mrs. Conley, I was here when she was walking the campuses and stuff, and she was just so empowering and inspiring, just even when she was on campus in the 80s and 90s. And I even was thinking here today how I even worked in when I became an employee at Ball State, I was working in the old OMA house. That's what the Office of Multicultural Affairs at that time. But I thought about how I ended in, was it 2001? So when I was working in the facility planning here at Ball State, and I had a big dream. And my big dream was to become a magazine publisher. Now, I didn't go to school for journalism, had no experience whatsoever. So I was like, no, I'll just do a newsletter. Let me just do a newsletter to 50 to 100 women. So a year later, Hope was launched, which was Hope Magazine. And instead of going to 50 to 100 women, it launched to over 7,500 women that paid for a magazine that I had no clue on how to produce. So I had to learn to work backwards to figure it all out. But the great thing about it is I had some of these amazing yes sisters here on this panel today, Miss McNary, Miss Dollison, and Miss Teresa that were there who believed in me and empowered me that you can do this and you have support. We believe in you. And at that time, that's exactly what I needed, is to know that there was big more to me. I used to tease the ladies at my old job that I was the front desk superstar. Now, I didn't know I was going to go on to be a superstar. I was kind of speaking into existence. So 16 years later, here I am publishing a quarterly publication that reaches over 150,000 women a month, with a social media presence of over 50,000 women, in a published book that's been published in Walmart.
Now, Dr. Jeter, we know her. She needs no introduction. But what we do need to hear from her is her story. We've seen her work, but thank you for agreeing to participate a little while longer in a more casual way as well. So Dr. Jeter, our president and an urban planner extraordinaire.
Thank you, Monique. You just can't say no to Monique. If you don't know Monique, you understand why I'm saying that. Quickly, I know we're running short on time. A couple of things. Mary Dawson was one of my substitute teachers way back in the day, I will not say. But she certainly impacted me in terms of her, and first of all, seeing a Black female teaching in Muncie, Indiana, which was unheard of, okay, at the time. So that impressed me first off. So I said, there must be something to this education thing, right? And so I've had mentors, not only my parents, but from people like Mary Dawson. And so she certainly is a jewel in our city and our community for sure. And I don't have any problems bragging on people because they help to empower others. And so that is so important that she's still doing that. So I appreciate her for sure. I always had a love for reading and education and dreaming and empowerment. So when people know me, they say, there goes the dreamer, there goes the woman of empowerment. My dad used to tell my mom, all right, what is Teresa up to now? I know she's up to something. So one time they were on their way to a reunion, family reunion. And I said, well, I think I'm gonna go to Los Angeles and live. And they just scratched their head and said, what is she up to now? But they weren't too surprised or shocked because I was doing that all along, right, growing up. So it was just a matter of time before they knew I was gonna do something else. And so that's what I did for about 10 years back in the day. But my parents weren't college graduates, but they were encouragers and supporters. And so whenever I have an opportunity to speak, I share about them. Because if it weren't for them, I certainly wouldn't be here at this time. They didn't go to college, but they encouraged their children to. And as a result of that, I went to receive my BS degree in environmental science and health, my master's degree in urban and regional planning, and my PhD in public policy and administration. And so they weren't around to see me receive my PhD, but I know it's because of their encouragement. I just want to share a quick mentorship story. That's one of the reasons why we have this panel, and that's one of the reasons why we're talking. When I graduated with my master's degree, after serving as a deputy director for the city of Muncie in urban planning in community development, I went on to Anderson to build housing, affordable housing for first-time homebuyers. A group of pastors sought me out. And the only thing they said to me was, keep us out of jail. I said, oh my God, this is scary. Keep them out of jail, that means they knew nothing. And I was fresh out of Ball State. What in the world was I going to do? All I said was, oh, of course, I'm keeping out of jail. I know I hadn't been in jail because I knew that we would be working with a lot of money, a lot of dollars, and I got all the dollars that the city had. They gave me $2.something million, established partnerships with banks. I had 30 seconds, okay. To do what I needed to do. I kept them out of jail, provided housing for first-time homebuyers. But the mentorship piece is with a young lady who was graduating from Ball State in the same urban planning program. She came to my office and said, I need an internship. I said, okay, great. And so I mentored her. I knew right off she was going to do great things. As a result of that, she went on ahead and worked in various areas in the state of Indiana. She's from South Carolina. And in addition to that, she went to the top. She worked for one of the governors in the state, headed the budget department, and she just grew and grew from there. So to wrap that up, mentorship is critical because I was just teaching at Ball State Urban Planning, loved it. She reached out to me, she said, I want you to be the CEO of my planning firm. As a result of that, I am the Chief Operations Officer. She was my graduate assistant 20 years ago, but she reached out to me. She could have reached out to anyone. So that is the epitome of not only helping to mentorship, but the ones you mentor reach back to you to help them, right? And so that is my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Thank you, Dr. Jeter. And please to continue to engage in the chat with us. We have received some questions. So the first question is going to go to Dr. Williams. And Dr. Demita, would like to learn a bit from you in regards to what challenges or adversities you face in the process of getting to your position as a Chief Nursing Officer.
Did this come from my family? I would just say that I think the first thing is we get in the way of ourselves, I think, a lot. And that's the first challenge is to overcome the mental obstacle of what is not possible and to just believe that you can do anything. We have our family, we have 5 children. To be able to raise a family, 5 children, go to school, get 4 degrees, overcome multiple moves. I happened to marry another alum who coached basketball, moved us every few years. I could come up with a lot of excuses for how to fail. And, but God, I would say that when you have made up in your mind what God has called you to do, you stick to that plan and don't let anything get in the way of that. There are plenty of people around to help you be successful, but to just not accept failure as an option. And I also believe stick to your personal belief system. And my goal in life and personal mission statement is to die empty. And so with that, I don't believe in retirement. My family would definitely tell you that you just have to keep working hard and push towards that and just take every single day at a time and look to those around you to support and to lift you up. I always believe, and we know this as African Americans, you always have to be better than the next candidate. And so I just wanted to make sure that my resume read in such a way that no one could ever reject me for something that wasn't on my resume. So just to go and get the qualifications for the job that you want one day, not the one that you have.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Our next question is for Angelia White. What practices do you have in place to stay current and sensitive in your process of curating content for Hope for Women magazine? That's a good question.
Well, I have to commend my amazing, I can't remember who said it about the young people. It definitely has to be my younger interns and my younger team members. It's really good because, you know, my kids, my older kids say that, you know, I'm just lame. That's what they say. But to be able to listen to young people as they're more alert or aware of what's going on in culture and society. And so it's always good to allow them to share their experiences and ways that we can enhance our content. So that's kind of what I do to stay relevant.
Thank you. And again, engage in the chat, engage in the chat. Our next question is for Angela Parks. You still there, Angela? What lessons did attending Ball State teach you that you carry with you daily?
The lessons that Ball State taught me were to never accept no for an answer because there is always a yes right around the corner. To advocate for yourself, advocate for what you believe in, and advocate for those around you, and to never stop dreaming.
I don't know if y'all can hear it, but there was a round of applause here in this small gathering that we have on site. How are we doing well with time? Oh, wonderful. So we get to hear from these beautiful, beautiful women a little bit uh, more closely. I'm trying to pull, I lost my questions here on the screen. For but I do recall one question that was for Dr. McGriff.
Okay.
And the question that was given was, how do you, I'm going to paraphrase it my way because I don't remember what it is verbatim, but it's essentially, how do you execute your femininity in your professional experience? Somebody must think you're pretty fly.
I am fly. Wow. Geez, I think for me on my leadership journey was something my mother told me. If you believe in ethereal experiences when someone is transitioning, she told me, you are somebody. And that was hard to grasp at that age, right? I was 15. And I went through these ebbs and flows in my leadership, thinking I needed to be more masculine, I needed to be like this person or that person. But I kept going back to what my mother told me the day she died. That you are somebody, and be yourself. So how do I exercise my femininity? How do I exercise me as Marcia and all my different, facets? Is just to be myself. The good, the bad, the ugly, the mistakes, the successes, all of it is just a part of the journey. And so be yourself. If you want to rock a suit and tie, if you want to rock, I like studs and skulls. It's a true story, I really do. Then do that. But be yourself above all. And I forgot to mention a part of my story that I did this great dissertation about Black women in politics. And so I wrote this dissertation in 2017, finished it in 2018. It's about the political engagement of Black women in politics. And so ironically, that's my avocation. So I love politics. My mother loved politics. She said, vote, vote, vote. Go out there and be a Shirley Chisholm. Shirley Chisholm is a Delta. Go out there and be a Barbara Jordan. So I was like, okay, so I did all those things. And interestingly, my dissertation actually dovetails really nicely with the stories at this table. So it was a phenomenological study of the experiences of Black women in politics. And so my central question is, given the fact that Black women are the most engaged part of our electorate, literally, it is noted in the data, Black women outvoted every gender and racial subgroup, period. That includes white males, black males, white women, any other, and everything in between. But why are we so underrepresented in public office? Where's the stopgap? Why are we not making that passion, as our sister talked about in Florida, or with your mother who was involved in the civil rights movement? Why haven't we moved that energy into political office? So that was the study. I found out some very incredibly important data, and I need to get on the good foot and write an article and move that important literature forward. So thank you for being on this panel with me. I appreciate it.
So the second part of that question, Dr. McGriff, was not only femininity, you answered it, was not only femininity, but also your Blackness. And when you transitioned, I thought, this woman can read my mind. So I have another question, and this question is for Miss Akila. And Miss Akila, what mantra or words of wisdom do you keep in mind in order to remain agile in your professional progression? That was lyrical.
I don't have a mantra, but I always try to stay in the moment, because sometimes we can get so caught up in, oh, I've got to finish this. I only have so much time to do this. So I try to stay in the moment and stay focused. And it's really hard for some reason after 2020, it's really hard for me to get back to being focused. But I try to stay in the moment, and I do that through music. I love music. I love to dance. And so I guess growing up in the 70s, where we had the best music ever, so, I do that a lot. So that kind of helps me, keeps my energy up and keeps me positive, because it's so easy to fall into depression and all. And we all are fighting that after, 2020, where all these murders and all of this badness around us. Try to stay in the moment, stay focused, and do something that, fires you up.
Well, I tell you what, this is a moment that I want to stay in. I know that this is a virtual reunion, but I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be in this space and time and to absorb you all's wisdom and energy. So thank you for volunteering today to participate in our virtual reunion, not only as panelists, but also you all as participants. So our time is coming near, but we do have a few more questions that we'd like to ask. And the next is for Mrs. Dollison. We haven't heard from you again yet. And Mrs. Dollison, could you speak to your motivating factor? No pun intended. But what was your underlying motivator to tirelessly, and we know that you're still in the fight, continue the work you've done here locally?
Well, the fact that our children, I have a heart for children. I look back at my own life, and even though I had great parents, they didn't understand education. And I know a lot of children now doesn't understand education, and a lot of the parents don't always understand what is required for our children. And so I just don't sleep at night thinking about the kids that I work with, that nobody's saying to them, what are you going to be when you grow up? Nobody's saying, encouraging them, not nobody. But many times our children don't get the encouragement that they need. And so I meet with a lot of children all the time. Even during the pandemic, I was able to work with the daycares in our community, 5 of them. And I found people who would help us to get books to those kids on their doorsteps to make sure that they were getting some help during the pandemic, because many of them didn't have the Wi-Fi and some of the other things that they needed. So I just have a heart for children, because when I went to Ball State, I struggled. I struggled because I wasn't prepared. And if you're not prepared, it's going to be a struggle. And I've had the greatest husband in the world to put up with me and all the things that I want to do with the kids. And in fact, I told my own family, as of this summer, we worked all summer to have a community citywide program for our children. And we worked with 30 different organizations in the community to try to help our children, because we know that they're behind because of the pandemic. In fact, our newspaper put a big article about that. We knew that they were going to be behind. But those 30 organizations came together to make it available to help our children as much as we possibly could. And I'm thankful. But I told my family, they said they're tired of me doing all of this here. And I said, as of this summer, I'm going to retire. They said, you've said that 3 times before. But I really am going to do that. But I'm also passing the mantle to lots of young people to encourage them to help us with our library, because our library does a wonderful job in Muncie. I mean, doing awesome things. And so I'm trying to get all of these young people who are saying we need to be doing this, that, and the other, to work with Miss Akila, who I know God sent her back to Muncie for me.
Now, we have seen mentorship at work in this time that we've been together. We've also heard some stories in regards to past experiences with mentors. But Dr. Jeter, could you help anyone learn how they can go about finding a mentor?
That is the $1 million question. And how do you find them? Well, sometimes we find them in our homes, right?
That's right.
That's where it starts. That is the first mentorship that you. Oh, thank you.
Oh, I'm just sitting here. Sorry.
Our mentorship is really to get in our homes, whether it's positive or negative, whatever's going on there. Children are watching, and they are going to emulate what they see. So that's the first place. You look right in your home, and then teachers are great mentors, whether they know it or not. They are, and they also provide an opportunity for you to look at your gifts that you have. What are you in terms of empowered? How are you empowered? I remember my 6th grade teacher, his name is Mr. Garinger, and he always had these fun things to do in class, right? So one class, he said, I want you guys to look at your quarters, your nickels or whatever, and I want you to locate a particular year on a nickel. That's what it was. And I looked and I looked and I looked for this nickel with this certain date on it. I didn't find it. I said, because he was going to give a quarter for the nickel, right? And so I saw a nickel. It didn't have the date on there, the correct date. So I shined up that nickel. I licked that nickel and I wiped it off. And I gave it to Mr. Garinger. I said, Mr. Garinger, here's your nickel. He looked at me. He said, if you are that bold to give me a nickel that doesn't even have the date and expect a quarter, I'm going to give you $1. Well, I knew from that point there was something to that, right?
That's right.
And so whether he knew it or not, it was more than just about the nickel. It was about this person gave me confidence and encouragement. And so from that time on, 5th grade on, nobody could tell me no about anything. Because I learned firsthand as a kid that your ability to persuade, even though you know in your head it wasn't correct, that there's power there, there's empowerment there. So I learned a lot. I was a middle child, so I was kind of shy and empowered. But when he did that, I stepped out. I was Superwoman at that point.
So we know that mentorship starts at home, but I was looking at the audience and I saw someone raise their hand. I think it was Jamie.
Yes.
And so not only does mentorship start at home, but you may also ask to be mentored.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes in my experience, just doing the work has yielded an opportunity to learn from those around me. And you know what? Sometimes a mentor is not someone that you know. Maybe it's someone that you follow that influences you. So please continue to engage with us in the chat. Please continue to network throughout the day. There are opportunities within the platform for you to engage with people. So make a friend, be a friend, and that friend may be your mentor. We thank you so much for engaging with this wonderful group of women. And we will be back here on the main stage to hear from Mr. Williams in approximately 10 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 3 minutes. 3 minutes. We'll be back here to hear from Mr. Williams. See you soon.